Welcome to Okaloosa Today, local news and information. Connecting the communities of Fort Walton Beach, Destin, and Okaloosa County.
Welcome to Okaloosa Today on Cox. This is your monthly look at the city of Destin, Fort Walton Beach, and Okaloosa County. I'm Doug Rayner with the city of Destin, and we are going to talk about the budget, everybody's favorite topic. It's budget season. The city council will be talking about that in September and pass a budget. And joining me is Carisse, LeJeune, city manager of Destin, Bragg Farmer, finance director of Destin, to really lay out our budget, talk about what tax dollars do, and let our citizens know where their money's going. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me back.
Good, yeah, you were just on, so congratulations, 2 in a row. I know you enjoy it. Bragg, you come on about once a year to talk about this, and you know, you're our expert, and I think you'll really shed some light on people's trim notices that just came out. We're going to look at that, and also what tax dollars do. So, Carisse, let's do a little update on just the cost of doing business in Destin, what people's tax dollars pay for, what our budget looks like.
Of course. We have about $11.3 million budget. That's a general fund, and that's our operating funds. We're about 3.7% increase from last year, but that again is the increase for the cost of doing business in the city. We have 51% ad valorem tax revenue. Those are the taxes that are paid by the citizens of Destin. So 51% of our budget comes from those taxes. The rest of the money comes from different things like franchise fees, our Gulf Power contract, shared state revenues like our municipal tax, and also the community center. When you register for programs, those are user fees, and user fees also are part of our revenue that we use to fund the general fund.
And something that it will be kind of the theme is how frugal the city is. Just as I mentioned, the user fees that we have are very nominal. Just to join the community center and have programs there, rent facilities, using our library, it's very, very cost effective to our residents. And I think we'll see as we continue to talk about this, our taxes are very reasonable as well.
Yes, they are.
So let's talk about what tax dollars pay for. People say, well, you know, I'm paying taxes to the city of Destin, and we'll get into what they pay in a few minutes, but let's talk about where those tax dollars go.
Absolutely. Every year we plan the budget. This year I had an opportunity to work with Bragg. We sat down and met with all the different department heads to see what their needs were to operate their departments going forward in fiscal year 17. Part of that is looking at capital projects. For instance, the Heritage Run Stormwater Project, the new pumping station that they have out there. What that's going to do is help reduce the flooding in that neighborhood and surrounding areas, and we are going to continue to do more stormwater projects throughout the year. Another one of the projects that we have on the books is the community center roof. That community center is over 20 years old, and the roof had never been replaced. So the community center is a gathering area for our entire community, and just about everybody goes there for one reason or another, whether it be adult, senior, or children for programming. So we needed to put a new roof and a new air conditioning system on that. The Morgan Center, they got a fence replacement this year, and Morgan Center is one of our gems of the city. We bring in sports programs and competitions from all over the United States every summer.
And that place, the Morgan Sports Center, is also a great economic generator for our community. Not just a revenue source for the city of Destin, but also the whole community benefits from that place being in tip-top shape. I think putting a new fence up was money well spent.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, taking care of our streets. That's what all municipalities do. We have streets that are in disrepair. Some of them rise to the top as priorities, such as the Indian Trail, which we have recently completed, and also the Monique Court and Kelwen Circle will be coming soon. We'll be doing some street repaving there as well.
Sure, we have a lot of streets in the city that are in disrepair, and I know our Public Services Department every year prioritizes the ones that need to be repaired. Tax dollars go to help keep those things in good shape. It keeps your car from falling in a hole and things of that nature, so that's another good one.
And of course, right next to the streets you have the sidewalks. We've been putting truncated domes at the end of the sidewalks along Main Street. Those are ADA compliance truncated domes, so that folks who have disabilities don't have to step off of the curb. If they're in a wheelchair, they can just roll over those truncated domes to cross the street. So.
That's right. That's right.
Another thing that we have recently done, we advanced FDOT $750,000 for the pedestrian crossings that everyone has seen now on Highway 98. We believe that they're going to go a long way to helping the residents and our visitors cross safely from the north to south side, so that they can go down and visit our harbor area.
Right, and I think that's money well spent. Bragg, that may have been considered a capital expense, even though we're going to be repaid over the next 3 or so
Three
years.
or 4 years, right.
But you wrote a check for $750,000 of taxpayer money to get those things going.
That's correct, and that was what happened. Is those projects were on the DOT's list of items to be placed in the city, and they prioritize their budget just like we do, and we were low on the list of getting that done, and it became such a concern for the city council as well as the employees that work for the city, that we were having tourists who were here for a week spending a lot of money, and they were having trouble getting across the highway. And we just made a decision, the council made a decision, that we would front the money to DOT, and we did that, and they got the lights put in, and they're all in place now, and we will be reimbursed probably over the next 2 or 3 years.
All right, again, just money well spent. Those are tax dollars. That's what your tax dollars are being spent on. You had one more thing you wanted to mention, at least as far as tax dollars go, and that's the salaries of the employees who help run the city. I know your salary, Bragg's, mine, is paid for with tax dollars so that we can provide services, this show, anything that you might see in the city. That's where that comes from.
Absolutely, and the way I view it is that the salaries for the city employees are money well spent. Coming into the city new, it's been a couple of months now. I have to say that the city employees that I'm working with are some of the finest professionals that I've ever met in municipal government. They give 110%. During the downturn, we had to lay a lot of people off, so our city employees are taking on multiple tasks and responsibilities. So I'm hoping in the coming years to be able to maybe put some key people back in place. But for this year, we're just looking at maybe 1 or 2 additional salaried employees that are vital to the operations of the city.
Sure, and that's very well said, very well put. And speaking of salaries, Bragg is going to earn his right now because he is going to talk a little bit about the general outlook of property value increases and a millage increase that the City Council will be looking at over the next month, going from 1.5 mils to 1.7 mils to help cover some additional capital items over the next year. And Bragg, you are our resident expert on the tax bill, so let's talk a little bit about what property values have done. I know people see their trim notice and understand their values are a little different, so let's start with that.
Okay, the property values for the city increased by 5.26%. If we were to maintain our current millage rate at 1.5, that would equate to about a $383,000 increase in tax dollars that our citizens would pay. The council has adopted a tentative millage rate of 1.7. Now, we haven't adopted it as a taxing item yet because that is just a proposed rate. We're going to have 2 budget hearings that are going to come up in September, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that'll be the opportunity for the public to come in and express their concern or satisfaction with the way the budget's going to be has been designed, as well as the millage rate for their taxing base. Well, one thing I would like to do is just kind of go through the tax bill and give you an idea of what you're looking at in that trim notice, because I know for me, especially before I started working for the city, it's very confusing. I mean, there's 6 columns, and you really don't understand what they're saying. It says proposed, what might happen, and I just want everyone in the city to understand that on that bill, and we have an example that you're going to see there. We have a $300,000 house. You have 2 homestead exemptions, the regular homestead exemption as well as the $25,000 additional homestead exemption that was passed by the legislature back during the economic downturn.
Okay.
So you'll have a taxable value of about $250,000 for your house. That bill, if you paid it in full, would be about $3,441. Of that bill, only $425 would be payable to the city. A majority of your taxes go for your school, your local and state school taxes, as well as your county taxes. Then there's some, the fire district also has a tax on there. But to the city, we are a very, very small part of that. Currently, you would pay $425 at the 1.7 mil if that is ultimately passed by the council. That is, if we had only passed the 1.5 mil this year, you would only pay $350. So it's about a $75 difference in taxes between this year and what could happen next year.
And that's for a $300,000 home, appraised
Assessed home.
value?
Appraised value home.
Appraised value?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So that's exactly right. And this green stripe in this example that Bragg here shows is $425 of the $3,441 would be what the city receives in taxes, and again, $350 last year based on the 1.5 mils. A $75 increase seems fairly small. We understand that money is money, though, and that's why we wanted to talk about this, so everyone understands what your tax dollars go to and how important that is. So, yeah, Bragg, I mean, talk a little bit about the budget process. I mean, we're going to, and what that increase in millage means to the city of Destin.
Well, first, let the millage increase, the overall increase of going from 1.5 to 1.7, equates to about an $800,000 overall tax increase on the property in Destin. Now, and I really want to emphasize this, that proposed rate is not set in stone. We'll have 2 budget hearings in September, and that will be an opportunity for the city council to hear from the citizens, hear from the property owners, as well as to set that rate. And we will be doing, our first hearing is on September 8th.
That's right. It's a Thursday this year, not a Monday night.
That's right. And I recommend that everyone come out. And it's not just Destin. I mean, you have an opportunity to go to every taxing district on that trim notice that you got. So you can go to the county hearing, you can go to the Destin Fire District hearing, all of those.
School board, right.
The school board, they all have budget hearings just like we do. But overall, that increase is going to be about $800,000. And it will be primarily used for capital projects involving streets, sidewalks, roadways, whatever the council.
Stormwater.
And stormwater. Right.
And that's a good point. That kind of leads me into the next part, which is the city council who proposed the 1.7 mils, that you've balanced a budget that you'll present to them on September the 8th for a first public hearing. The city council is going to decide what to do with that excess or the extra tax money this year. So Carisse, explain that a little bit. You mentioned stormwater, Bragg said streets and sidewalks.
Right.
They're looking at some projects.
That's right, Doug. At our budget workshop, which again was open to the public, there was discussion regarding some of the capital projects that we have on the books that we are not able to afford. Bragg and I worked very hard to bring in a balanced budget at 1.5. The council understood that bringing in that balanced budget was not going to afford us the ability to do a lot of very important stormwater projects, some priority street and sidewalk repairs, and also they would like to see a dedicated harbor code enforcement officer down in the harbor district, especially during the 100 days of summer, which I've just experienced, to help maintain the waterways and the harbor area down there. So all of those things combined, I believe, is what helped the council to come to the decision that they wanted to consider raising the millage to 1.7. Under that 1.7, we have about $300,000 worth of those capital improvement projects we just talked about that have been prioritized as the most immediate need. And that's what they'll be discussing at our first budget hearing.
And you mentioned the budget workshop that actually already took place in August, and they had the opportunity to, this is where all this came out. I think they had the opportunity to express their needs. You and Bragg went back and showed them what an increase would do. Bragg did a great job actually of explaining how important it is for people to be involved and to see their tax bill, to understand it and where they can go. We have 2 hearings coming up. September the 8th is a Thursday. September the 20th is the second public hearing for the budget on a Tuesday. And we have a graphic that shows that for everyone to understand. But lay it out there for why it's important to be involved in this process as a citizen.
Well, it is very important to come forward to not only the budget hearings, but to council meetings in general. Our council members are the elected official that represent the body of citizens in Destin, and we as staff do our best to inform them of different issues and projects and of course the budgetary needs of the city. But it's the citizens that they need to hear from because they're there to be the voice of the citizen. So if there are projects and needs within the city, such as street paving, sidewalk repair, stormwater projects, and the citizens believe that it's worth 2.2 mils?
0.2, yeah.
Yeah,
0.2 mils
0.2 mils.
to have those projects done, then they need to let the council know that that's their desire, that's how they want them to vote. On the other hand, if they want us to remain at the flat 1.5 budget and they don't think that those type of infrastructure projects are that important, then they need to let their voice be heard by the council on that as well.
Very good.
And
Very
also
well put.
one thing I would like to mention is our full budget will be online on our website. It'll be available beginning September 1st, so you should really take the time, go out, look at it. If you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to
Call
contact
Bragg.
me.
Call Bragg, that's right.
I take a lot of phone calls from people all over the county about the trim notices, and they don't understand it. And I don't mind talking about the budget and kind of giving people an idea of what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're funding it. But certainly take the time to go to the website, pull the budget down, look at it, and see how your city's spending its dollars.
Yeah, very well said, and thank you both for being here. This is great information. I think our citizens need to see this, need to understand it. We're going to move forward, and just thank you. It's been very informative.
Well, thank you for letting us come and talk about it.
I want to thank you for watching this segment of the show. Remember, city council meetings can be viewed online at the city's YouTube page. They're streamed live, and all the old meetings are there as well. cityofdestin.com website has a great deal of information. You can get anything you need and also follow us on Facebook. Be sure to stay tuned for the City of Fort Walton Beach next.